January 2025. I can see that we have present Councillors Allison, Anderson, Clark, Cowie. I have apologies from Councillor Fagan. Also present today are Councillors Falconer, Ferguson, Frame. I have apologies from Councillor Fulton, but I can see that Councillor Donnelly has joined as a substitute. Also present today are Councillors Gray, Hamilton, Johnson Dempsey, Keat, Kerr, Lambie, Lockhart, Logan, Loudon, Mars, McCallan, McGeever. I have apologies from Councillor Razak, but I can see that Councillor Devlin has joined as a substitute. Also present today are Councillor Scott, Councillor Thompson. I don't see you present. Also present today are Councillors Walker and Watson. External representatives today, we have Naomi Baxter, Jennifer Gaffney, Christine Hall, Joan Lennon and Angela Milton, and I'll just check to see if Gillian Story has joined. She has joined. We also have a number of officers in attendance, and with that I'll pass back to yourself, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth Ann. Is there any declarations of interest? Nope. The minutes of the previous meeting, which is pages 5 to 14. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I've got a question on page 6, section 3 of the minutes. This is where the cost of transport was identified as a financial risk. We're now 2 months on from when parents and carers were told they were going to receive a decision on walking routes to school. Since the last committee, there's been a communication that said that we can expect them in March. Chair, we're sitting a month away from having to set a budget. We've been given no update as to how many walking routes have been ruled in, how many have been ruled out, and even a sort of estimate of what next year's transport bill would be as a result, and what the risk highlighted at the last meeting now is going to be. It's pretty unsatisfactory all round. Could someone advise, is it the case that councillors aren't going to get an update on exactly how much the savings from cutting bus routes are going to be until March and until after the budget? Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Anne?
Thanks, Chair. I can advise that the work is ongoing and I can get an update to Councillor Loudon in relation to the walking routes which have been assessed and the ones that remain and the timescale for those. In relation to the finance, again, that work would take place further down the line, but the intention would be to provide an update on the cost in relation to transport for the committee. So I can give that commitment.
Supplementary, Chair.
Yep.
So just to confirm, will we have an idea of the projected savings from the change in school transport before the budget takes place?
Noted that request.
Okay. Moving on to the monetary items. Agenda item number 3, which is Education Resources Revenue Budget Monitoring 2024 to 25, which is pages 15 to 20, and I'll ask Louise to take that. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair. So this is the third report committee on the revenue budget covering the period 1st of April through to the 1st of November, which is period 8 of our financial year. Section 4 on page 15 contains updated information in relation to the Scottish Attainment Challenge and for our PEF programme. As at the 1st of November, we've spent 5.850 million with 3.436 million still to spend. And for our Strategic Equity Fund, we've spent 1.648 million with 210,000 still to spend. And we do have all our known staffing commitments for both programmes through to the end of March within this committed position. We'll continue to update committee on both of these programmes towards to the end of the financial year. In terms of the main financial implications of the report, paragraph 6.1 on page 16, education is reporting a break-even position against the budget at this time. As reported before, this position reflects underspends in our early years staffing, offsetting projected overspends in teachers' costs, mainly due to cover, overspends in relation to transport and our demand-led school placements, as well as additional costs in schools for janitorial expenditure and classroom supplies. We do have underspends in our early years core budget, and we're projecting an underspend in the cost of our footwear and clothing grant after, obviously, our auto enrolment and all entitlement is paid. There's also an over-recovery in our early years fees and income from other local authorities, which is supporting the overall position, particularly the demand-led school placements, as I've mentioned. So whilst we're reporting a balanced position at the 1st of November, we have been trailing a few areas of pressure on the education budget, and just to give committee an update on those. In terms of transport, after some one-off funding solutions this year, the overspend of 5.201 against our core budget has been included within the overall transport and plant reported position in Appendix A at 2.3 million. In terms of the teachers, the National Census position was published on the 10th of December, just last year. Across Scotland, there was a decrease in both pupil numbers and teacher numbers, and that was 621 for teachers and 3,100 of pupils. But for South Lanarkshire, we also had a decrease, as we were trailing as well, a decrease in our teacher numbers of 65, and this was due to the removal of non-recurring council one-off funding for targeted support, as well as a national reduction in our NQTs. The pupil numbers, we had a marginal increase of 8, and our pupil-teacher ratio increase as a result of the decrease in teacher numbers from 13.2 to 13.4. So the Scottish Government has advised, as a result of this exercise and the publication of the census data, that the additional support for funding for the additional teachers will remain in place, and we've assumed this within our budget, and for the Council that was 9.379 million, so that has been confirmed as being received. Ongoing communication exists is ongoing with the Scottish Government to consider the impact of their anticipated commitment for the 25-26 position, including what mitigations we have, also local issues impacting our teacher numbers, and also to confirm our baseline and how that will set us up for 2025. The level of funding has also been committed, with additional money coming to all councils, and this is to support the 3 commitments within the budget agreement statement at that time. In terms of our regular budget environments, these are proposed set at the bottom of Appendix B and reflect movements to education's budget from the 9th of August through to the 1st of December, and cover a few of the following areas. Transfers from reserves to meet our expenditure commitments within our budgets, transfers between resources in relation to some procurement savings, transfers from corporate items, and also the establishment of budget to reflect external income that we receive for some of our programmes. Additionally, we have the realignment that happens every period for the movements between our devolved management scheme within schools, the EMA programme, and also the PEF programme. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, we're asked to approve the following recommendations: that the forecast to the 31st of March of a break-even position, as detailed in Appendix A for the resources noted, and also that the proposed budget environments are approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. First of all, can I agree the minutes of the previous meeting?
Agreed.
Yep, thank you very much. The recommendations are on page 15 for agenda item 3. Is there any questions? Councillor Thompson.
Great report, what I heard it. Just to let you know, that's me finally in, so thanks to the IT team, and sorry for annoying you there. Cheers, Chair.
Welcome, Bert. Councillor Allison.
Just a bit of clarity, Chair. It says money has been transferred from reserves. Is that council reserves, education reserves? If it's education reserves, what level of reserves do we have? And where did it come from?
Louise.
Yeah, could I just ask, sorry, what point is that? From
It's
reserves?
in the budget environment, A, transfer from reserves.
Beg your pardon. Yeah, we've had transfers from our reserves in relation to school transport, and also in relation to expenditure commitments from early years reserves.
Yeah, sorry, the question was reserves, education reserves, council
Both.
reserves?
We've had our own education
What
reserves.
level are they and where did they come from?
Okay, we've had education reserves for supporting early years, supporting our now council position, and also we've had corporate reserves that have supported both the costs of transport. I think I had provided at the last meeting there was a request for the position on transport, on reserves. I'll get that reissued to give the overall position on how the education reserves are sitting. But there's been both in this position.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I ask the committee to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4 is the capital budget monitoring 2024-25, which is pages 21 to 24, and I'll ask Graham to take that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This is our standard capital budget monitoring report, and again the third for the financial year 2024-25. And this reflects the budget, expenditure and outturn position to the 1st of November 2024, which is our accounting period date. Section 3 gives the background to the report and explains the budget reflects the capital programme approved back in June last year, and also includes updates approved by the Executive Committee in November. At section 5.1, we're noting that the resources total capital programme for the year is 8.371 million, and that includes budget amendments totalling a net decrease of 671,000, which were approved by the Executive Committee back in November. The details of these amendments are shown at the bottom of Appendix A, and they relate to adjustments for the secondary schools expansion project to reflect the revised timescales of works, the 24-25 universal free school meals allocation, and also the law primary nursery expansion project. At section 5.2, we're noting a full forecast spend for the year at period A of 8.371 million, and the actual expend incurred to the 1st of November is 4.887 million. I would then refer committee back to the recommendation in section 2 of the report that the education resources budget of 8.371 million and forecast spend of 8.371 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Graham. Recommendations on page 21. Is there any questions? No. Okay. Can I ask the committee to note the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5 is the workforce monitoring October-November 2024, which is pages 25 to 32. And can I ask Eileen to take that?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the standard workforce monitoring report for education resources covering the period October to November 2024. And in section 1 details the absence statistics. So the resource absence figure for November 2024 was 6.2%, which represents an increase of 1.2% when compared to the last month. And compared with November 2023, the figure is increased by 0.6%. The figure in comparison to the council-wide figure is 0.7% lower than the council-wide figure for November 2024. So based on the absence figures as at November 2024, the projected annual average absence for the resource for the year 24-25 is 4.8%, and that compares to a council-wide figure of 5.7%. Managers continue to follow the procedures outlined in our maximising attendance policy to support employees to remain at work and return to work after an absence, and personnel continue to work closely with resource management teams to ensure that the appropriate actions and supports are taken. Section 4.2 details occupational health information, and there's more details in Appendix 2. There were 492 occupational health referrals made during the period, which is an increase of 107 compared to the same period last year. And when we compare that to the same period last year, it's important to note that we are actually we're transitioning to a new occupational health provider during that period, and there was a lower number of occupational health referrals at that time are in process. Musculoskeletal and psychological remain the top 2 reasons for absence, and this is consistent across the council. Section 4.3 details the accidents and incident statistics, and as confirmed at committee, the last committee, there was an update in terms of accidents and incidents. They're now presented in a different way as a result of our move to Oracle Fusion. And in relation to the period in October to November 2024, there were 73 accidents and incidents, which have been investigated and categorised during the period. Moving on then to section 4.4, in terms of discipline, grievance and dignity at work. Over the period, there was 4 disciplinary hearings, there was 2 grievance hearings, and there was 3 dignity at work issues that were raised. Section 4.5 for the leavers. In terms of the analysis of leavers, there were 47 leavers during the period that were eligible for an exit interview, and there was 12 exit interviews that were conducted. And finally, at section 5, this details the staffing watch information for the resource as at 14th of September 2024, and this shows an increase of 150 employees compared to the previous staffing watch return in June 2024. And if I refer committee back to section 2, we're asked to approve the recommendation that the employment information for education resources covering the period October to November 2024 be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. As we said, the recommendations are on page 25. Is there any questions? I don't see any. I'll ask committee to note the report. And can we move on to the resource plan, Q4 progress report, 2024 to 25, pages 33 to 60, and I'll invite Gary to speak to that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. The Education Resources Plan 2024-25, approved in May 2024, sets out education resources' main areas of activity, improvement actions and performance measures for that year. The plan and associated reporting framework follows corporate guidance and lights to outcomes within the wider Council plan and those aims outlined in the National Improvement Framework to achieve excellence and equity in education. This report provides committee with an update on progress against those actions and measures up to the end of Q2. A full system report is shown at Appendix 2, and in addition, a summary of progress is shown at section 5.2, which notes that 44 measures were set out against this resource plan. 30 of those have been met within timescale and in line with expectations. 12 measures have been recorded as report later. These are typically attainment measures for which information will not be available until the school session is complete, and they will be reported at that point. 2 measures are recorded as amber, signifying minor slippage. In both cases, this relates to reporting timescales rather than the substantive work itself, which has been completed. Importantly, no measures are showing major slippage and as such require no changes in brag status, additional scrutiny or further improvement activity. To further illustrate progress so far within the resource plan for 2024-25, section 5.3 highlights some significant achievements made during the reporting period in relation to the agreed resource outcomes. These include our secondary pupils being presented for over 80,000 qualifications and performing above the national pattern, an important increase in play-based learning in early primary and the realisation of the benefits this can bring, the opening of a new 52-week nursery in Bodwell, Wood Dean, and the refurbished and extended Our Lady of Lourdes Primary in East Kilbride, a continued focus on improving attainment for care-experienced children and young people, a strengthening of the voice of our young people on decisions that affect them, including those in relation to climate change and sustainability, the sound and extensive work to tackle gang culture in our communities through targeted Pathfinder initiatives, and continuing strong performance in community learning, including accreditation initiatives and wellbeing initiatives. Chair, the resource looks forward to providing further update to committee on our overall progress against the resource plan at Q4, but in the meantime, it would refer you back to the recommendations at section 2 on page 33 of your agenda pack. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. As Gary said, the recommendations are on page 33. If you have any questions, indicate now. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. On page 34 on the Teach the Teacher initiative, first of all, to welcome this, I think it's really positive. A while ago, when I spoke with the Youth Forum on Climate Change, one of the things I asked them, what more do you want us to do, kind of a general question. The top thing they said was, an increase in climate education. I've also engaged with other, campaigners on the subject, wanting to see more climate education across the curriculum. So things like these where, pupils are taking ownership is really positive to see. I suppose my question would relate to kind of the expansion of this. I know it says the new chair and vice chair of the forum to ensure sustained progress, but how do we build on projects like these to expand them across South Lanarkshire? There are lots of good projects going on across South Lanarkshire in our schools, but sometimes when we get fantastic case studies coming forward, they can be located in one locality or one school, and it's about making sure that's we have these young climate leaders across South Lanarkshire, and that's kind of making sure we have that progress across all localities.
Gary.
The elected member is correct here. There is a huge appetite for this type of work across the resource. We will see in a later paper some of the successes we've had in our celebration and the importance to celebrate that success and share that with others. Also, just on the theme of sustainability, we spoke to our head teachers just a few weeks back about our resource priorities, and climate change and sustainability was very high on that list. So that will be a key feature in our resource planning going forward, which will also filter down through to our schools as well.
Thanks, Gary. Councillor Logan.
Okay. Thanks very much, Chair. Councillor Clark rightly highlighted one part of the curriculum, but I think as we tend to complain, we also should congratulate our officers, our schools, yourself, Gavin, for leading the team. I personally think that South Lanarkshire Council is, if not the top, well, we're near the top in Scotland, and I think we are the top because I'm a very council person, as you know. Every school that I have ever attended, there's a high of activity. The teachers want to engage, and recently at our local area meeting, we had some fantastic reports come up through. So much so we gave a round of applause because it was so good to hear what was happening. You go to our high schools. I couldn't go last night, but the Holocaust up at Carluke, that's one that we know the best. The shows that put on, the various things that actually go on within our schools, to me is absolutely fantastic. And at the heart of that is the pupils. If you sit in a pupil at the parent council, that's always the heart of what is going on. The pupils are the centre and forefront of the schools. So I think well, I'm just praising them because I think they do such a very, very good job to try and take every pupil and give them the best start, no matter their level education-wise or whatever they want to do in life. So I think, as I say, it's right to highlight some parts, but also collectively in the whole, we should also congratulate everybody, our cleaning staff, everybody who puts anything into the system should be highlighted and congratulated, including yourself and Gavin, of course. Thank you.
I didn't appear to say that, honestly. Might order a cup of tea now, though. Thank you very much, Eileen. And yeah, I think the whole committee echoes your sentiments there. If there's no further questions, then I can ask the committee to note the report. Agreed. Thank you very much. Heading on to agenda item number 7, which is South Lanarkshire Council Multiply Project, pages 61 to 66, and I'll ask Jacqueline to take that. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to advise committee on the progress of South Lanarkshire Council Education's Multiply project, with paragraph 2 of the report asking committee to approve and note the contents of the report. Paragraph 3 outlines the background of the Multiply project and the funding available both nationally through the UK Shared Prosperity Funding and across South Lanarkshire. The money is allocated to education across schools and youth, family and community learning resources as part of the project, total just over 1.3 million across 3 years as identified in bullet 4.1. Paragraph 5 takes you through the approach used in primary and early years with the specific aims of the programme outlined in bullet 5.2, the key one being to break down barriers to parental learning across numeracy in order to support pupil attainment. The model for delivery of the programme is a train-the-trainer approach, and the success of the programme is already being recognised through school inspection. We have also started to pilot the programme across our secondary schools as stated in bullet 5.10. Paragraph 6 then outlines the approach taken across youth, family and community learning. The specific aims of the approach is outlined again in bullet 6.3, and they are very similar to that used directly in schools, with the addition of improving financial literacy and confidence for adults in everyday life. Some initial data is outlined in point 6.6 and 6.9, again demonstrates the positive progress being made to support the targeted communities and participants of the programme. Paragraph 7 then takes us through the planned next steps across education and youth, family, community learning as we come to the end of the project with the aim of building capacity across schools and our existing service structures. A final evaluation of the programme will be brought back to committee at a later date as specified in bullet 7.4, where we hope to further celebrate the success of the programme. Chair, I'd like to refer you back to section 2 of the report, and the committee will be asked to approve the following recommendation that the contents of the report be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jacqueline. A very positive report, and it's really good to see how well this programme's working. And I think a lot of you will remember when it was first approved to come forward, and it's nice to see things through.
Progressing, yep.
Yeah, and how it's progressed. Yep, thank you. If there is any questions, Councillor Loudon. Oh, what happened?
Oh.
That's
Leave it
you.
alone. That's for me. Thanks, Chair. Thanks for that, Jacqueline. Yeah, it does sound really positive. I've been involved in similar workshops in the past with parents and carers, and it's always been very worthwhile. I've got a wee question around it's page 63, 5.8, and it's about the review that took place after the primary programme. And it says possible future learner pathways are identified for those who attended the pilot. Just wonder if we could unpack that a wee bit. Are we talking formal referrals, or are we talking, is it more sort of hypothetical, or were individual parents linked into other services, obviously in a sensitive way? I'm just asking because it's not really then picked up in the next steps at the end of the report. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Loudon. As you say, that still, to be honest, has to be unpacked a wee bit more as we move forward with the final evaluation. But we have already some circumstances and instances where parents have then gone forward to be involved more in the school on an informal basis, and also a more formal basis in terms of becoming in a support staff for South Lanarkshire Council, and obviously as well attending college in terms of broadening their horizons and their in terms of education. So we have, I suppose, some anecdotal evidence at this point in time, as well as some brief case studies, but absolutely that's to be further explored as we bring the next report back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'd just like to say a fantastic and encouraging report. I'm really pleased with this here, especially 3.3 about the adults achieving the qualification in maths. This cannot but help with employability and the quality of life. So well done to everyone involved there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bert. Councillor Logan.
Thanks very much, Chair. Could I ask, and if it's known this, you could tell me where then to go and have a wee look. In your findings, in the 50s, early 60s, people who I remember at the school, and now I would think they had dyslexia, the reading and they were falling behind with reading in English and different things. But now, and it's through something else that I know, they're discovering, I think it's dyscalculia is the name, and £16.66. It should have been £19, 99, turning things backwards. So is this coming, are we finding that when we're out speaking to people and looking at stuff? And just like dyslexia was hidden, and actually some folk thought it was quite shameful, their child couldn't read or write or do things. But are we catching that up? Because it seems to be that it's there, but whilst dyslexia was getting pushed on, that seemed to be sitting in the background. And I know actually 4 different people, and that's what they've been diagnosed as dyscalculia.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. You know, dyscalculia is something now that is more recognised, and as part of the programme, certainly the initial findings with this is it's more about supporting the young people in our schools, but absolutely sometimes an emerging need will come for the adults and carers that are involved, and we would do our best then to redirect them to services that would be able to support them with that, but also support them with strategies where it can help them to, you know, obviously strategies to support them in terms of their own learning, and that everyday maths that we're talking about, numeracy, additional strategies to help. So yeah, it certainly has been picked up. It's not been a main part of the findings that we have looked at, but you're absolutely right to recognise that. And again, that's something through the YFCL programme, where we're working more directly with adults rather than the schools programme. It's again something that is a part of the focus for that element of the programme too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gavin?
Thanks, Chair. Just a very brief comment to welcome the report as well. And Jacqueline, thank you very much for taking us through that. In particular, I wanted to highlight paragraph 7.3 that identifies that 100% of participants have highlighted a reciprocal benefit to themselves and their children. That is a fantastic endorsement, a really good mantra to step forward. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, then I'll ask the committee to note the report. Going forward, we'll go into agenda item number 8, which is strategic approach to raising school attainment, secondary attainment, which is pages 67 to 74. I'll ask Stuart to take that, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. The purpose of this report is to provide an overview of the strategic approach to raising attainment in our secondary schools, and to provide also a high-level overview of the session 23-24 senior phase attainment. On page 67, you'll see section 3 of the report reminds us of the context and notes that while the young people currently progressing through the senior phase of education, sitting exams, undertaking courses and programmes of work, were affected by the interrupted learning and the impact of COVID, they've demonstrated commitment, resolve, resilience, and are achieving and attaining well. And I would say too that the teaching staff and support staff who are also involved have equally demonstrated those admirable qualities. Para 3.3 notes the ongoing changes to course content, assessment arrangements every year since 2020, and Appendix 1 on pages 73 and 74 provides a summary of those arrangements in place each year. And I suppose as such, we must exercise caution then when we make year-on-year comparisons across the data picture. However, nevertheless, what we can say is that we see positive outcomes and an improving picture across the board. And Para 3.4 on page 68, we can see that S4 are ahead of our comparators in all key performance measures. We see that more of our S5 learners are achieving level 6 qualifications, that's equivalent of higher or equivalent across a wider range of courses and programmes. And we also see that by the time that our young people leave us in S6, that literacy and numeracy levels are high and are improving, and that chimes with some of the work you'll hear about later in terms of literacy and numeracy in primary and in early secondary too. So this year, and I note the earlier comments in comparing South Lanarkshire Council to some other local authorities, we punch above our weight. And we know that the pass rates we've got are higher than the national picture and well ahead of some of the comparable local authorities. We note the work that's got us here in Para 3.6, but Para 3.7 makes it abundantly clear, I think, that this remains an area of focus for our schools. It remains a priority, and we continue to support and challenge them to ensure the best outcomes that we can for all of our young people. Section 4 on pages 68 and 69 lists some of the factors that affect attainment. Attainment's a complex issue. There's no straightforward formula for success, if only there were. But there are things that we see as common features, some levers, if you like, and there are approaches which are demonstrably successful, and we work with our schools to ensure that we capitalise on the successes that we have. But page 69, section 5 goes on to outline some of the work that we do undertake as a central team to support, to challenge and to secure improvement. Paragraphs 5.2 to 5.8 on pages 69 and 70 describe the elements of direct engagement with our school leadership teams to look at their exam results in detail, and that does include looking at some of our vulnerable learners, young people with additional support needs, care experience young people, as well as broader attainment categories. And we look at attainment of our levers in detail, and that includes positive destinations, it includes literacy and numeracy, as well as the formal qualifications that young people achieve. We're also developing a means of looking forwards as well as looking backwards to reflect on data through the use of live data, and we're working with our schools to do something proactive in that space. What we've also done is we bring our head teachers and school leaders together to consider best practice in relation to a range of activities in paras 510 and 511. And we've bolstered capacity this session, noted in para 512, by seconding 2 of our existing secondary head teachers to the central team on a part-time basis to further support schools with some of the challenging work we have in place around the inspection regime and around the delivery of learning and teaching. And of course, we do make sure that there's a broader package of training and support in place for all of our staff, as noted in 513. On page 71, in section 6, we recognise that there is significant change and indeed challenge on the horizon in the shape of the education reform agenda, and particularly the review of qualifications assessment and changes to the awarding body, and also the work being done to review the curriculum and to implement a curriculum improvement cycle. As a local authority, as a council, we've been involved in some of that work, and we're now looking at how best to prepare our own colleagues for what's coming, so that we continue to manage change in a measured way, in a proportionate way, but that allows us to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak. Section 7 then recognises that we note the improving trends in attainment as evidence of success in our approaches. We certainly acknowledge that the context remains challenging, but I would also want to state that we're absolutely committed to doing the very best we can, and by we, I don't just mean the central team and central officers, I mean staff in our schools, the teachers, the support assistants, reference made to cooks, cleaners, everybody involved is very clear that there's a commitment to doing the very best that we can, even in the faces of those challenges and uncertainty, to deliver for our children and young people. So with that, Chair, I refer committee to section 2 of the report on page 67 and ask that the overview of the strategic approach to raising attainment in secondary schools be noted, and also that the high-level overview of session 23-24 senior phase attainment also be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Stuart. And I think that appendix at number on page 73 just shows how difficult the background has been in the past 5 exam diets, and the difference it is. And obviously now going forward with the review of the assessments and the curriculum, then I think that where it's positive, that there's challenges ahead as well. So I think that how well our secondary schools are doing and how well we see that through the inspections and stuff like that, then actually we're doing a really good job, and thank you very much to the team for that. If there's any questions, can you indicate now? Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. A question and an observation. Just to say that I was very lucky in the council to have worked with Mr Gamid, Ken Arthur, Mary Smith. They were all teachers of mine. I worked in the same school as me, and they were dedicated. They called them the Halcyon days, and they achieved then, and they're still teachers doing it now. So my hats off to them. No, for attainment levels, they are increasing. And this report's showing that, which is credible and worth noting. But I still know, I know of people personally that are still leaving school. Unfortunately, literacy and numeracy skills are not great, and I just hope that one day, with a bit of dedication, determination and money, of course, that it will happen that every people at least will at least a good grade of basic education. But so far we're going in the right direction. I'd just like to thank them, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Yep, Councillor Keat.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for that report. I'm just highlighting paragraph 7.2. Schools are changing almost, and it feels like on a daily basis, and our staff have been exemplary in the manner in which they adapt to the changes. And obviously there's some wider national changes that will come down the way. And I think when I attend parent council meetings, the events that we attended last night, we hear staff and head teachers in particular talking about the sharing of resources and knowledge, in particular the role the QLOs play in that. And I think the model that we've got to support our staff and the wider learning communities is fantastic. And that was highlighting obviously the recent inspection visit that we undertook. So kudos to all our staff, and I have no doubts that coming in the years forward we'll manage the challenges in an exemplary manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lammonby.
Hi there, thanks for that. Just a quick one. I wondered if we have a subject by subject breakdown of how we're comparing with the national averages. Thanks.
Stuart.
we get very detailed data for each school around subject by subject and within subjects, level by level data. The national aggregates, the aggregation is set across a number of key measures, which is the word broad attainment rather than giving us national comparators by subject level. What we do is we do look at some detail at average presentation levels in our schools and average attainments in our levels by subject compared to the national. So that work is undertaken. Of course, there is a fair bit of variability depending upon a number of factors, for example, the socio-economic demographic of the school or the particular place of a particular subject within the curriculum. So it's not a straightforward comparison, but it's something we're aware of, something we do look at. But that is captured within those overall key performance measures, which look at young people across a range of activities. What we do is, on a school-by-school basis, we will engage with that. So rather than saying as a local authority our geography results are stronger than history, we will look at it on a school-by-school basis and have individual challenge, and that's the purpose of those SSR meetings that you see referred to earlier on in the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Stuart. If there is no further questions, I'll ask the committee to note that report. Agenda item number 9 is support for equality, diversity, inclusion, which is pages 75 to 88. And can I invite Aisling and welcome Aisling to the committee for the first time in her new role and to take to the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. The purpose of this report is to provide an update and to report on the breadth of excellent work taking place in South Lanarkshire schools in relation to equality, diversity and inclusion. Section 3 sets out the background, noting the value that we place on equality, diversity and an inclusive ethos, promoting empathy and respect in all of our schools. We are committed to the wellbeing of all learners. Equality and diversity in our educational establishments has been a strong focus for the Scottish Government and Education Scotland, and our own framework for inclusion and equality has been updated to reflect the current legislation and national guidance, advising schools on their responsibilities with regard to protected characteristics and guiding them in eliminating unlawful discrimination, harassment and victimisation, whilst promoting diversity and tackling prejudice. Section 4 sets out the legislative and policy context within which we work to support schools. To help schools and local authorities take forward the actions and recommendations of the Morgan Review, the Promise, the UNCRC, Education Scotland launched an Inclusion, Wellbeing and Equality Professional Learning Framework in 2023. As part of this, they've identified 6 areas where inequality can cause the greatest impact on your wellbeing. These are LGBT+ discrimination, gender-based violence, racism, poverty, disability discrimination and being care experienced. These areas are a focus of Equality Works for Education Resources. Section 5 outlines the developments Education Resources has made in these areas over session 23-24. Section 5.1 details developments in the area of anti-racist education. In January 2024, a framework for developing an anti-racist and decolonised curriculum resource was launched to support schools. This was accompanied by a series of online presentations schools can use. A development officer was seconded to work closely with the Scottish Government and other leading experts to ensure our support for schools was in line with the current guidance and research. Section 5.2 outlines developments in the area of LGBT+ inclusive education. In September 2023, an audit was conducted across head teachers to establish a baseline to further our work on LGBT+ issues. In November 2023, a showcase event led by Time for Inclusive Education, TIE, took place, attended by over 100 staff and covered resources, national expectations and principles for effective practice. The Scottish Government have recently issued updated guidance to ensure LGBT+ inclusive education in schools, and we are proud to be already on this journey. A subsequent online Level 1 module from the National Platform for LGBT+ Education has been added to mandatory training lists for all teachers. As of January 2025, there are 1,449 users registered, 88 have started Stage 1 CPD, 1,156 have completed Stage 1 CPD, and 143 schools and education settings are registered. A reminder has been sent to all schools who have not yet registered. Many of our secondary schools have achieved or are working towards their LGBTQI Youth Scotland Charter Award. Psychological Services are also working towards their LGBTYS Silver Charter Award. Section 5.4 details developments in the area of gender-based violence. The Mentors in Violence Protection MVP peer education programme gives young people skills to lead peers in exploring and challenging attitudes, beliefs and cultural norms that underpin gender-based violence. Each school has an MVP link and a quality improvement officer from Inclusive Education who monitors and evaluates the delivery in schools. Training for schools was delivered in May 2024. Approximately 40 staff attended training. All secondary schools are now delivering this programme. Hamilton Grammar School made a video played at the Equalities Forum, which shows senior pupils in this leadership role. They also presented to all head teachers at the Inclusion Conference in September 2024. Section 5.5 outlines our developments in anti-bullying. Respect Me, the National Anti-Bullying Service for Schools, delivered training on creating an anti-bullying policy and on recording and reporting of bullying incidents. New guidance on recording bullying incidents was issued to all schools. 3 of our schools achieved the Respect Me Award for their anti-bullying work. Hamilton Grammar School, James Ayton Primary School and Tinto Primary School. Hamilton Grammar School was also commended for its work in equalities and promoting diversity and acceptance across the school. Stonelaw High School has been nationally recognised as a model of good practice for their Choose Kind approach to wellbeing, equality and inclusion. Section 5.6 outlines our progress in supporting disability and autism. We continue to extend the work of alternative and augmentative communication, which we refer to as AAC, to give children and young people a voice. Call Scotland have trained staff in this area and the use of technology to improve communication. Inclusive Education Services purchased a range of technology and distributed to schools, both mainstream and ASN settings. This increased the use of digital technology and will assist in making this curriculum accessible to all. We have created an inclusion hub, an online resource on Glow, with resources and training for schools relating to inclusion and equalities, all gathered in one place and regularly updated. The Inclusive Education team have developed and delivered regular training to build capacity in staff to support increasing additional support needs. Training developed by the National Autistic Implementation Team and aimed at P1 teachers was very well received by all. The South Lanarkshire Autism Framework has been updated by a multi-agency working party, and the new guidelines for supporting pupils with complex additional support needs has been issued. 3 schools with ASM bases received very positive inspection reports, and that was Robert Owen Primary School, Green Hills Primary School and Carstairs Junction Primary School. Section 5.7 outlines our developments in tackling poverty. We have supported schools by issuing cost of the school day guidelines. The guidance contains 10 SLC proposals to reduce the cost of the school day and advice on communicating with families. The guidance was launched at a conference led by keynote speaker and poverty campaigner Darren McGarvey. Our schools engaged in reducing the cost of the school day and ensuring poverty is not a barrier to accessing education. Section 5.8 details developments regarding supporting care experienced children. In February 2024, we held our National Care Day event focusing on keeping the promise. This will be repeated again this year. We are continuing to embed nurture and attachment-informed trauma-sensitive approaches. Psychological Services have introduced an Attachment Accreditation Award for schools to work towards, and 67 schools now have one or more of these pledges. Emotion coaching has been delivered to over 1,000 staff. Attainment of National 5 qualifications in care experienced pupils has increased and exclusion numbers have decreased. Section 5.9 details our next steps in continuing to embed effective approaches to equality, diversity and inclusion in schools. Scottish Government funding has allowed us to plan building capacity training for support assistants to encourage skills in meeting additional support needs. This will be delivered to over 500 support assistants in session 2024-25 and will be repeated the following year. This is guided by a resource folder to support practice for all schools in meeting emotional regulation needs. We will continue our commitment to staff training and development in relation to equality and diversity. 13 teachers have completed the National Building Racial Literacy Programme and will be implementing an action plan in their own establishments. We will continue to build our training resources on the equality section of the Inclusion Hub. We will continue to train a new cohort of staff and pupils in mentoring for violence prevention, and our work with the care experienced pupils will continue to deliver the promise. During session 24-25, all schools will include an equalities priority in their improvement plan. Inclusive Education Services and the Curriculum and Quality Improvement Service are working together to provide schools with resources to support this and to ensure that there's a cohesive framework in place, which draws together the main elements of UNCRC rights and equalities and sustainability. Chair, I'd refer back to section 2 and ask committee to approve the recommendation that the update regarding the diverse work taking place across education resources in respect of equality and diversity is noticed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much for that very detailed update, and it just shows the amount of work that's going on in our schools. I'm particularly pleased to see, it's all brilliant, but I'm particularly pleased to see the stuff around gender-based violence, and I feel like that's very, very prevalent just now with what is going on in the world and with social media and etc. So I think that that's some great work that is going on there. Lots of people want to speak apparently, so if you want to speak, can you indicate now? And I will take Councillor Donnelly first.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to welcome the gender-based violence. As everyone knows, that's been very much an issue that I've tried to push within the council, and I'm pleased to see it on the agenda within education. We will not eradicate violence in the home or violence in society if we don't start somewhere. So working with the young people will make major steps forward in eradicating violence towards women and girls. So I welcome the paper and I welcome the work that they're doing, and also linked to the gender-based violence team who, they're helping with that work. And thanks to that as well, that the link is vital in order to get the message right. And the misogyny that is out there, as you said, Chair, we need to deal with it and we need to eradicate it. And the school's got a very, very strong place to play in that argument in order to eradicate that within our society. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Donnelly, and thank you for the work that you have done in the council around this. It has been invaluable. Can I take Councillor Walker?
Thank you, Chair. You partially covered what I was going to say. This work has obviously always been important, and the report was very comprehensive, showing a wide range of activities, and we all know over the past decade or whatever the impact that it's made and the positive changes that have taken place, although obviously there are still areas of concern, and you partially covered that, Chair. These gains are easily lost, and if we don't believe that, just look over the shore to America. President Trump has sacked or put on leave every equality and diversity member of staff in his government. He's doing it in the armed forces. It is very frightening, and I think they could descend into a very dark situation. So it's vital we support this work and we maintain the gains and improve on the gains, and that we link with other like-minded countries, Europe, whatever, because these could be very dark times across the shore. So thank you for that report, and also for anybody that watched the moving programmes that were on around Holocaust Memorial yesterday. There are very few survivors now left from the Holocaust, but one of the things they were keen to put forward was, how you actually descend into the situation that led to the Holocaust. And I hope I'm not exaggerating when I say if we don't protect the great gains that have been made and through people like yourself, sorry, I've forgotten the name of the person that gave the report, and champion it, then these gains could be easily lost. So thank you so much for your report and all the work. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret, and I think you're right. There's still lots of work to be done, but you can see the gains that have been made through the work that has been done. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair. Yep, there's a lot, without repeating what anybody else has said, there's a lot of really great work in here. And I'd also agree with Councillor Walker's comments as well. When there's really dark times elsewhere in the world, it's easy to forget how lucky we are to have the focus that we do.
Councillor Lydon, can we do... Minutes.